You spend your whole life doing, chasing, fixing, and proving. You keep your plate full because that's how it's supposed to be. But then, somewhere along the road, you hit an age where you realize not everything needs to be done. Not every battle needs to be fought, not every burden needs to be carried, and not every door needs to be opened. When you reach 70, you begin to see things differently. And let me tell you, that's a gift. See, youth is about accumulation, collecting, experiences, responsibilities, achievements, even mistakes. But old age? That's about letting go. It's about unburdening yourself from what no longer serves you. It's about understanding that some things just don't need to be done anymore, especially these 6 things. First, let's talk about proving yourself to others. When you're younger, you spend years trying to be someone in other people's eyes. You chase approval like it's oxygen. You work hard to be seen as successful, reliable, intelligent, or admirable. You want people to respect you, to validate your choices, to tell you that you did a good job. But let me ask you, when was the last time you actually needed that validation? When was the last time someone else's opinion of you truly changed anything in your life? At 70, you stop proving. You just live. You've already done your share of showing the world what you're capable of. You don't need to be the best, the smartest, or the most accomplished in the room. You don't need to win arguments just to feel important. You don't need to explain your choices to anyone. You realize that the only person whose approval truly matters is your own. And even that, well, you start going easier on yourself. 2. The second thing that no longer needs to be done? Worrying about what's next. See, when you're young, your mind is always racing ahead. What's the next step? The next challenge? The next milestone? You live in a constant state of anticipation, always planning for tomorrow, next year, the next decade. But when you get to a certain point in life, you finally understand something important. Tomorrow is never promised. Now, that's not a sad thing. That's a freeing thing. Because once you stop worrying about the future, you start living in the moment. You stop saying, one day I'll do this, or maybe later I'll take that trip. You stop postponing joy. You stop saving things for a future that may never come. Instead, you drink your coffee slowly. You sit by the window and listen to the birds. You enjoy the small, quiet moments that used to pass you by. You let yourself simply be. Then there's this, fixing people. Oh, how we spend our lives trying to fix others. We worry about our kids, our grandkids, our friends, even strangers. We think, if only they'd listen to me, if only they'd take my advice. We want to help, to guide, to prevent them from making mistakes. But here's the truth. You cannot save people from themselves. You cannot live their lessons for them. At 70, you let go of the need to fix. You love people as they are, not as you wish they'd be. You offer wisdom when asked, but you don't push it. You understand that everyone has their own journey, their own timing, and their own path to walk. You stop taking responsibility for things that aren't yours to carry. And that, my friend, brings a peace you never knew you needed. Another thing that falls away? Keeping up with the world's chaos. When you're younger, you stay plugged in. You follow the news, the trends, the endless debates. You feel the need to keep up, to stay informed, to have opinions on everything. But as you get older, you realize you don't have to. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every problem in the world is yours to solve. You see the noise for what it is, just noise. You start prioritizing your mental peace over the never-ending chaos of the world. You focus on what's within, your reach, what's real, what actually matters in your own life, and you let the rest go. Then there's the guilt. Oh, the guilt, the regret, the endless replaying of past mistakes, missed opportunities, things you should have done differently. You waste so much time in your younger years carrying these things like stones in your pockets. But at 70, you understand something. Regret serves no purpose. The past is done. There's no going back, no rewriting, no undoing. But there is something you can do. Release it. You forgive yourself for the things you didn't know back then. You stop punishing yourself for being human. You understand that every choice, even the wrong ones, brought you to where you are now. And where you are now? That's exactly where you're meant to be. And finally, at 70, you stop holding on to people who don't truly see you. You stop forcing relationships that drain you. You stop chasing after those who have already let go of you. You realize that your time and energy are too precious to waste on people who don't value them. Instead, you invest in those who bring you peace, those who make you laugh, those who accept you as you are. You focus on real connections, not obligations. You understand that it's not about how many people are in your life, but about how deeply you connect with the ones who remain. Reaching 70 isn't about slowing down. It's about waking up to what truly matters, waking up to the freedom of no longer needing to prove, worry, fix, chase, or regret. It's about finally learning to just live, and that's the real wisdom of old age. Now, there's something interesting about reaching 70. You don't just grow older, you grow lighter. Not in body, necessarily, but in spirit. You start shedding the unnecessary weight you've carried for decades. The expectations, the obligations, the endless need to do and be more. At some point, you look around and think, I don't need to do this anymore. And just like that, life becomes a little simpler. But simplicity doesn't come naturally, not at first. See, we spend most of our lives complicating things. We say yes when we want to say no. We hold on to things long after they've lost their meaning. We keep doing things out of habit, out of fear, out of obligation. But at 70, something shifts. You realize that half the things you thought were necessary, they were never necessary at all. Take, for example, chasing after material things. When you're younger, it feels important. You want the nice car, the big house, the expensive clothes. You work hard, you save up, you upgrade. But then, somewhere, along the line you realize, most of it doesn't really matter. What good is a big house if it's empty of laughter? What good is a fancy car if you don't have anywhere meaningful to go? At 70, you stop chasing more and start appreciating enough. Enough space, enough comfort, enough of what truly brings joy. You find that simplicity is not about lacking. It's about freedom. The freedom to live without being weighed down by things you don't actually need. The freedom to stop worrying about keeping up, because keeping up is exhausting. And then, there's the need to keep busy. Oh, how we fill our days when we're younger. If we're not working, we're planning, organizing, doing. We keep ourselves occupied because we think slowing down means we're falling behind. But at 70, you understand something profound. Busyness is not the same as purpose. You don't need to fill every moment to have a meaningful life. You don't need to constantly be productive to be valuable. You start savoring stillness. You let yourself sit in the quiet without guilt. You stop running from one thing to the next and instead start truly experiencing the moment you're in. And let's talk about something else that falls away: the need to control everything. When you're younger, you believe if you try hard enough, you can make everything turn out the way you want. You try to control outcomes, people, circumstances. You stress over things outside your reach, trying to bend life to your will. But life has a funny way of reminding you. It doesn't work that way. At 70, you learn to let go. You stop fighting what's out of your hands. You stop trying to force people to be who you want them to be. You stop resisting life's natural flow, and you find something surprising in that surrender: peace. Because when you stop trying to control everything, you start trusting. Trusting that life unfolds as it's meant to. Trusting that even the hard moments have their place. Trusting that you don't need to hold on so tightly. And speaking of letting go grudges, now this is a big one. When we're younger, we hold on to resentment like it's a form of justice. We think, if I forgive, they get away with it. But let me ask you, what do you actually gain by holding on to bitterness? Does it change? What happened? Does it fix anything? Or does it just sit there, eating away at your peace? At 70, you learn that forgiveness is not about letting someone else off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. You stop wasting energy on old wounds. You stop carrying the weight of past hurts. You understand that your time is too precious to spend reliving pain. Instead, you choose peace. Not for them, for you. And while we're at it, let's talk about people-pleasing. When you're young, you bend yourself in 1,000 directions to keep others happy. You say yes when you mean no. You agree when you want to disagree. You hold your tongue to avoid conflict. But the older you get, the more you realize your peace is worth more than someone else's approval. At 70, you stop apologizing for who you are. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that don't honor you. You stop worrying about whether people like you and instead focus on whether you like yourself. You start living for your own happiness, not just to keep others comfortable. And let me tell you, that kind of freedom, it's priceless. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about reaching this stage in life is this: you stop waiting. See, when you're young, you always think you have time to take the trip, time to mend the relationship, time to say the words that need to be said. But at 70, you understand something younger people don't. Time is not guaranteed. So, you stop waiting. You say, I love you when you feel it. You take the trip while you can. You call the friend you've been meaning to call. You make peace with the past and embrace the present. You stop putting off happiness for someday and instead start living today. Because if there's one thing old age teaches you, it's this: life is not meant to be hoarded, planned, or postponed. It is meant to be lived fully and completely while you still can. And that realization? That's the greatest wisdom of all. Something happens when you reach 70. You stop moving through life as if it's a race. You stop chasing, stop proving, stop forcing. Instead, you settle into yourself in a way that feels lighter. You realize that life isn't about how much you accomplish, but about how well you live. And living well doesn't mean doing everything. It means knowing what's no longer worth doing. There's a freedom in knowing what to let go of. A peace in understanding that some things just don't deserve your time and energy anymore. And, let me tell you, when you start releasing the things that no longer serve you, life feels different. It feels softer, easier, and most importantly, real. One of the biggest things you stop doing at 70? Comparing yourself to others. Oh, how much time we waste in younger years looking sideways instead of forward. We compare careers, families, successes, even happiness. We measure our lives against someone else's highlight reel, as if there's a universal scoreboard we're all supposed to be competing on. But let me tell you a secret: there isn't. At 70, you realize there's no right way to live, no perfect timeline, no ultimate achievement that defines a life well spent. You stop looking at what others have and start appreciating what's already yours. You stop asking, am I doing enough? And start asking, am I enjoying what I have? Because the truth is, comparison is a thief. It steals joy, peace, and gratitude. And at this stage in life, you have no interest in letting anything steal from you anymore. And then there's this: apologizing for who you are. When you're young, you make yourself small to fit into other people's expectations. You downplay your opinions, your preferences, your dreams. You learn to keep quiet in order to be accepted. But by the time you reach 70, you've had enough of that. You stop apologizing for wanting a quiet life. You stop apologizing for saying no. You stop apologizing for your past, for your mistakes, for the times you did what you had to do to survive. You accept yourself fully and without hesitation. You embrace the fact that you are who you are, and that's more than enough. And you know what else fades away? The need to be liked by everyone. Oh, this one is big. Most of your life, you care, maybe too much, about what people think of you. You want to be well received, respected, admired. You shape your words and actions to avoid conflict, to fit in, to keep the peace. But at 70, you don't have time for that anymore. You stop worrying about whether people like you and start focusing on whether you like them. You stop entertaining shallow relationships, fake smiles, and forced conversations. You invest in real, meaningful connections. You surround yourself with people who respect your time, your energy, your presence. And if someone doesn't, you let them go without a second thought. Now let's talk about something we all struggle with: chasing happiness. When you're younger, happiness feels like a goalpost always moving just out of reach. You think, once I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. Once I find the right person, then I'll be happy. Once I fix this, earn that, change this, then I'll finally feel good. But at 70, you understand something that younger people don't. Happiness isn't out there. It's here. It's now. You stop treating happiness like something you have to chase, and you start finding it in the ordinary. You find it in a warm cup of coffee in the morning, in the sound of laughter at the dinner table, in a quiet afternoon with no obligations. You stop waiting for some grand event to make you feel whole, and you start appreciating the simple, beautiful things that have been right in front of you all along. And while we're at it, let's talk about something else you stop doing: holding yourself to unrealistic expectations. Most of your life, you push yourself. You tell yourself you need to be better, do more, accomplish more. You judge yourself harshly for not being enough. But by 70, you've had enough of that nonsense. You stop demanding perfection from yourself. You stop beating yourself up for the things you didn't do. You give yourself grace. You understand that being human means being flawed, and that's perfectly okay. You stop seeing your worth through the lens of what you've achieved and start recognizing it simply in the fact that you are here, that you've lived, loved, endured, and grown. And that is enough. And perhaps one of the most powerful things you stop doing at 70? Rushing through life. When you're young, everything feels urgent. You hurry through meals, through conversations, through moments. You live as if there's always something more important waiting just ahead. But when you reach a certain age, you start to understand this moment is all there is. You slow down. You savor the sunrise instead of rushing past it. You take your time in conversations, really listening instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. You stop moving as if life is something to get through, and you start experiencing it as something to be fully present in. Because at the end of the day, life is not about doing more, being more, or proving more. It's about living in a way that feels honest and fulfilling to you. And when you let go of the things that don't serve you, what's left is something simple and beautiful: peace. Something shifts inside you when you reach 70. It's not just about age, it's about perspective. You start seeing life differently, not through the eyes of someone rushing toward the next goal, but through the eyes of someone who understands the value of every passing moment. You realize that life isn't about how much you do, how much you accumulate, or how much you accomplish. It's about how deeply you live. And part of that depth comes from knowing what no longer deserves your time, your energy, or your attention. One of the biggest things you stop doing? Holding on to the past. You see, when you're younger, the past follows you like a shadow. You replay mistakes, regret certain decisions, wish you had done things differently. You think about the people who hurt you, the opportunities you missed, the words you should have said. You carry the past like a heavy bag, thinking that somehow, if you hold on to it long enough, it will change. But by the time you reach 70, you understand something important. The past is done. It is untouchable, unchangeable, and out of your hands. You learn that carrying it does nothing but weigh you down, so you put it down. You stop living in what if and start living in what is. You let go, not because the past doesn't matter, but because the present matters more. And once you stop dwelling on the past, something else naturally falls away. The need to rush. For so much of life, You move fast. You're always on to the next thing, always thinking about what's ahead. You walk fast, talk fast, eat fast. You live as if life is something to get through rather than something to be in. But at 70, you slow down. Not because you have to, but because you want to. You realize that time isn't something to be beaten, it's something to be savored. You drink your coffee slowly. You listen to music without distraction. You take the long way home. You understand that the best moments in life aren't the big ones, but the small, quiet ones that most people rush right past. And with that slowing down comes another realization. You no longer need to seek approval from others. When you're young, you care, maybe too much. You worry about what people think of you, whether they like you, whether they approve of your choices. You shape your life around expectations, trying to be what others want you to be. But at 70, that all falls away. You stop asking for permission to live your life. You stop justifying your decisions. You stop worrying about whether people agree with you. You trust yourself. You do what feels right for you, without hesitation or explanation. And let me tell you, that kind of freedom, it's priceless. And with that freedom comes another lesson. You stop wasting time on the wrong people. When you're younger, you try. You keep relationships alive, even when they drain you. You hold on to friendships that no longer feel right. You tolerate people who take more than they give. But at this stage in life, you understand something. You don't owe anyone your time. You stop making space for people who don't appreciate you. You invest in the relationships that matter, the ones that bring joy, peace, and meaning. And the rest, you let go. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You realize that your energy is precious, and you choose to spend it wisely. And once you stop giving energy to the wrong people, something else happens. You stop pretending. You stop pretending to be okay when you're not. You stop pretending to enjoy things you don't enjoy. You stop pretending to be interested in conversations that bore you. You let yourself be real, fully and completely. You laugh when you feel like laughing. You rest when you need rest. You speak your mind without filtering yourself for the sake of others. You embrace the truth of who you are without fear or shame. And that truth brings with it one of the greatest lessons of all. You stop fearing the end. When you're young, you don't think about it much. You assume you have time, so you push thoughts of mortality to the side. But when you reach 70, you begin to see things differently. Not in a fearful way, but in a way that makes life feel even more precious. You stop being afraid of aging because you understand it is a privilege. You stop being afraid of the unknown because you've made peace with the fact that life has always been uncertain. You stop wasting time worrying about the inevitable and instead focus on what's right in front of you, the here and now. And that's the greatest wisdom of old age, not just knowing what to let go of, but knowing what to hold on to. You hold on to love because in the end, it's the only thing that really matters. You hold on to laughter because no matter how old you get, joy never loses its value. You hold on to gratitude because every single day is a gift, even the ordinary ones. You hold on to the people who make life brighter, the moments that make life meaningful, and the simple pleasures that make life beautiful. Because when you strip everything else away, that's what life is really about. Not the things you own, not the titles you've held, not the achievements you've collected, but the love you've given, the peace you've found, and the life you've truly lived. And at 70, you finally understand that is more than enough.